Hello and welcome to Original Soundchat, where video game music is a work of art. On each episode, it's our goal to help you learn about two soundtracks from the world of games, as well as the people, stories, and critical tracks behind them. My name is DeVader.
And I'm Peter Spezia. We're brought to you by Anonymous Dinosaur and Rhymes with Asia. It's time to appreciate great OSTs and the games that they come from without getting too bogged down in music theory. Joe, what's this week's game for this special occasion?
Well, we've been doing this show for 4 years, and to celebrate, we're highlighting the deluxe Nintendo platform fighter on Nintendo GameCube, which became the system's best seller and established a competitive scene that has spanned more than 21 years, 2001's Super Smash Bros. Melee.
Yeah! Happy 4-year anniversary to us. On January 29th in 2019 was when we kicked off this show. So this upcoming Sunday, as the time you're listening to this episode, we turn 4. And that's crazy. We're going to start having 5th iterations of things.
Oh boy. Oh boy, are we. I don't think this is the longest I've done a show. I think 5 years is that, if I remember how long RTM went. I don't remember. I know SMYN went way longer than that.
I mean, it went way longer, but as far as, episodes go, I mean, we're certainly cleared those hurdles for ourselves. And it's pretty impressive. On previous anniversary episodes, we talked about the anthology of Nintendo music that was Super Smash Brothers and, the games that really mean a lot to us. So on Year 1 anniversary, it was Super Smash Bros. Brawl, following that Wii U and 3DS. And then last year, for 3rd year anniversary, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. We were thinking of mixing it up this year, but you know what? Super Smash Bros. Melee has quite a good soundtrack as well, so we go a little bit back in time there.
I think it should work fine, and then, honestly, we have 64 for another year if we decide to do that, and then we are truly out of Super Smash Bros. Games.
Unless Masahiro Sakurai has other ideas. Real quick before we jump into it, Joe, how are you doing? What are you playing?
Still been more Eternal Punishment. Actually, at time of recording, like literally now, I am maybe 2 hours away from rolling credits. Maybe. And that's a big maybe because I looked a little forward in the walkthrough I've been using just to make sure that I don't screw anything up, and found out that the final boss is level 99.
Oh.
That sounds awful, so we'll see how that works out, I guess. But other than that, this is a game I played last year, but was not allowed to talk about until literally 2 days ago. I played a game called A Space for the Unbound.
Oh, you've been looking forward to this indie for a while.
Yeah, it's an Indonesian adventure game. I was given the privilege of playing the PC version back in December. It was really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. A little too long. It's 9 to 10 hours long for a story that feels like it should be 5 to 6 at most, which is a bit of a problem, but not game ruining. It's out, and so is my review for it, which came out last week at time of release. So definitely check it out if you are a fan of games whose goal is to make you emotional and sad and happy and everything.
Good buzz on that soundtrack, too.
It is very good.
Interesting to start thinking about best of 2023 so early. So I've mostly been watching my fiance continue her Persona 5 Royal run. She is at the end of the casino, the point where you're all set with the treasure, but you have to do the free time before you don't want to actually have the final boss so early because of what happens after that. So just kind of in that few week waiting period in the game before all the action goes down there. But in the meantime, I've been playing some games on iOS, and one of these is called Turmoil. And my fiance also introduced this one to me. It's a casual business strategy game. If you like the mini game of the underground in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, where you're chipping away at the bedrock and trying to find the treasures underneath, I think this is the mobile game for you. Basically, you're you're doing a business startup where you get to have people kind of douse for oil under the ground, and then you set up derricks and pipelines, and then you try to deliver the oil to gas stations that have fluctuating rates in order to get the most profit. It's a really fun, neat game. Just little stints of 10-15 minute periods of play, and that's really a good time. I've lost quite a few hours to it. I think I'm like 3/4 of the way through the campaign. Also, as I am in a hotel at like the northern tip of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, work things, why the microphone sounds different, I'm also downloading Pocket Card Jockey right on.
Yeah!
Because it's now out on Apple Arcade. And if you want the creators of Pokemon at Game Freak to mix solitaire with horse racing, that got real good vibes and buzz on Nintendo 3DS, and they're just bringing a new version over to Apple Arcade. And hopefully, if that does well, comes to Switch eventually. I think they said that they're interested in doing that. So I'm really eager to give that a try.
I know there are a couple people over at NWR that speak very highly of that game. They're very big fans of Pocket Card Junkie. Pocket Card Junkie. Yep, that's the name of the game. Pocket Card Jockey. That name is harder to say than I expected.
Gotta get you a fix of that solitaire, man. All right, for our 4-year anniversary, let us talk about Super Smash Bros. Melee. Dairanto Smashu Burazazu Deraksu, or basically Smash Bros. Deluxe Sumabara DX, was released in Japan on November 21st, 2001 for Nintendo GameCube. North America would get the game as Super Smash Bros. Melee on December 3rd, 2001, while Europe would have to wait until May 24th, 2002. The game has never been re-released in any other form. So that original GameCube disc is the only legally official means of playing Super Smash Bros. Melee, whether that's in a GameCube or in a Wii, however you get to make it work. The game is developed by HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo. It is the second entry in Nintendo's famous crossover fighting game franchise. Now, obviously, we've talked about Smash games before on this show, and that was for our previous 3 anniversary shows. So here's the quick gist of what Super Smash Bros. Is. It's what is called a platform fighter, where instead of bringing an opponent's health down to 0, your main goal is to knock the opponent off of the stage. Attacks build up a damage percentage, and the higher the percentage you have, the easier it is to knock you farther and faster. There are items that can be used that gain an advantage amidst a stage's potential hazards. Now, there are a bunch of new additions in this deluxe sequel to the original Super Smash Bros. On Nintendo 64, like a side special move. I always forget, going back to Smash Bros. On N64, doing a side special, it's the same as just pressing the B button for your specials. So yes, a side special, big in Melee. There's also classic and adventure modes. There's home run contest, target test. There's no board the platforms mode. There's all-star mode. There are event matches. There are trophies, just to name a few differences.
Despite the fact that I have played more 64 than Melee in my time on this earth, I also completely forget that there is no side special half the time. So I'll be playing like DK and try to do the headbutt, and oops, that doesn't exist yet.
And you're just winding up a punch.
Happens to be all the time.
One of the big differences from the original Super Smash Bros. To Melee is the increase of playable characters. There are 25 playable characters, or 26 if you count a transforming character split, and that's a huge bump from the 12 characters in Smash 64. There are 14 characters available initially, and then 11 are unlockables. So returning characters from Super Smash Bros. Are Mario, Donkey Kong, Link, Samus, Yoshi, Kirby, Fox, Pikachu, Luigi, Ness, Captain Falcon, and Jigglypuff. And the newcomers are Peach, Bowser, Ice Climbers, Sheik, Zelda, Dr. Mario, Pichu, Falco, Marth, Young Link, Ganondorf, Mewtwo, Roy, and Mr. Game & Watch. Now, famously, Marth and Roy were initially intended to be playable exclusively in the Japanese version of Super Smash Bros. Melee, as Fire Emblem was a franchise that had only ever released in Japan. However, they received favorable attention during the game's North American localization, leading to the decision for the developers to include them in the Western version. The characters' appearance in Super Smash Bros. Melee led to a rise in the popularity of the Fire Emblem series, including releasing it outside of Japan for the first time, which, Joe, with your show Smasterpieces, you know quite well.
Yeah, it's the game we've been playing for the past 1,000 years, which is Blazing Blade in Japan, but here they just called it Fire Emblem, which is super confusing because it is a prequel to another game.
But you know what? It's all because of Marth and Roy in Smash Bros. Deluxe Melee. What's the plot of Super Smash Bros. Melee? Or any Smash game in general? There's not really one. Go through classic mode, go through the adventure mode, get to the end. Can you defeat Master Hand and anything else that stands in your way? Joe, here's where I'll ask you, what are our experiences with Super Smash Bros. Melee?
So obviously I did not play a lot of Melee as a kid because I did not have a GameCube. So I played 64 and then I basically did not touch another Super Smash Bros. Game until Brawl. But there was a McDonald's down the street from my house that had some GameCubes in it, and they had Toadstool Tour, and they had Mario Kart Double Dash, and I don't remember what the other game they had, but they had Melee as well, and that's the closest I ever got to like playing a lot of Melee. This version of Melee did not have a memory card, so there were no characters unlocked, and it forcibly reset every 10 minutes.
Love that. Wow.
So even if you unlocked a character, you didn't get to keep it. So yeah, that was my Melee experience. And even now, like, it's my least favorite one to play. Not because I think it's bad or something, but just because it's the one I'm least used to. Well, Brawl actually might top it for least favorite to play, but like Melee's the one that I feel the worst at, I guess, is how I should word it.
For me, I had a Game Boy Color growing up for Pokemon, as I feel like many kids who may have gotten into games at the time did. Pokemon was everything. But we were never allowed to have a home video game console at our house. We'd always go to friends' houses, or aunts and uncles would have them. But in December 2003, after playing Super Smash Bros. Melee enough times at a friend's house, my brother and I made the decision to, we'll make a presentation. Let's make the case why we deserve to get a Nintendo GameCube for Super Smash Bros. Melee and other video games, of course. But Melee was the big draw. That was the killer app, so to speak, on Nintendo GameCube. It worked. We got it, 2 years after the game had already come out. So by that point, it was, a silver GameCube. So no purple, indigo, whatever they called it, or either any of the other weird colors. The orange one, was that like mango or something? I don't know. So we got the silver one, and wow. And then my experience with Super Smash Brothers, I feel like, has been documented across the internet, where I played it and loved it enough and made enough friends through it, especially at college, to then start a podcast in 2007 talking about Super Smash Brothers, because who would possibly want to do that in the pre-release hype for Super Smash Brothers Brawl?
And that's how we met.
Yeah.
We mentioned this every time, but like Super Smash Brothers is essentially why the show exists.
Yeah, it's why we know that each other exists across the country, and why we met and why we're good friends. And yeah, co-hosts and everything. I really, really cherish your friendship, and it's through our years and years and years of podcasting together and everything that comes with that. And it's because of Super Smash Brothers, and it all starts with Melee.
Yeah, same. It goes both ways, honestly. Like, doing stuff with you is fun. That's why this show exists. So, hey.
Perfect. Well, let's talk about the development behind Super Smash Bros. Melee, because it's a really interesting development story. See, it starts with a project proposal and initial design document that was completed on July 5th, 1999. So it's going to be really close to the release, at least in the United States, for the original Super Smash Bros. And game director Masahiro Sakurai, the Smash Brothers genius behind it all, for this version on Nintendo GameCube and its increased graphical capabilities, he wanted to make an opening full motion video sequence that paid homage to the GameCube's debut and all of its capabilities over the Nintendo 64. So Sakurai gave up his New Year's holiday to storyboard his vision for the opening, bring it to the development team, and working with 3 separate graphic houses in Tokyo to make the animated opening sequence. And what a sequence it is. It really hits you that this is the next level. This is serious, and it's really impressive. On the game's official website, the developers posted weekly screenshots and information highlighting and explaining the attention to physics and detail in the game, with references to changes from its predecessor. Certainly a precursor to the weekday updates that would come with Super Smash Bros. Brawl and the Smash Bros. Dojo. But the game is especially known for its stressful development period. The game was only in development for 13 months, beginning around autumn 2000, and Sakurai called his lifestyle during this period destructive, with no holidays and short weekends. Sakurai even needed a hospital trip at one point when he physically collapsed.
Don't do this to yourself, kids. Do not do this to yourself.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. I mean, he also has some tendonitis in, I think it's his shoulder or elbow, something with his arms too. And that can't have, been any good for it to work that hard. The man just works way too hard, honestly. Get some rest. I hope Sakurai is getting some good rest. There have been different quotes that have been gathered over the years, collecting just a variety of elements of what was planned for this game at some point and what was cut as a result. So Source Gaming is a really good website for researching and being a resource for especially Super Smash Bros. Information. They pulled an interesting list together. Some of these I knew, some of these I did not know, and I kind of wanted to run them down with you here, Joe. So in the category of briefly considered and or quickly dismissed, because a Famicom character was considered at one point, ultimately, Ice Climbers, but characters that were considered or quickly dismissed include Takamaru, Mach Rider, Ayumi Tachibana, Balloon Fighter, Urban Champion, and Excite Bike.
I desperately want to see the universe where Ayumi was the one picked. I absolutely want to see that universe. I want to know what she would have been like.
Yeah, and you even mentioned that in the Famicom Detective Club episode for original Soundchat, so a neat little tie back there.
Other than that, Balloon Fighter kind of made it in eventually in the form of one move from Villager.
Yeah.
Wii U 3DS, I guess.
And then you have different assist trophies and things like that. So that also works for characters like Takamaru and Excite Bike. You got a Mach Rider song on the soundtrack, so that's something.
But the Mach Rider was absolutely in the game. That's what the Grinch leak said. They changed it last minute.
Good old Grinch leak. Characters that were seriously considered include Banjo and Kazooie, James Bond, more of that rare LTD connection there, and Wario. Among characters requested include Solid Snake by Hideo Kojima, Sonic the Hedgehog by Shigeru Miyamoto of all people, and this could have happened, but development was just too far along at this point, and that's why they did not make it into the game.
But there was that famous April Fool's joke of you could definitely unlock Sonic
and Tails.
And Tails in Melee. There's a screenshot of them.
That's true. And wasn't like Solid Snake with Kojima, like wasn't there something with like Kojima's one of his kids? Like Smash Brothers a lot?
Yeah, and he like asked him like when are one of your characters going to be in Super Smash Brothers? And so because he knew Sakurai, supposedly he went to was like, hey, so can you put Snake in Smash Brothers?
And eventually that did happen for both of those characters, obviously in Super Smash Brothers Brawl. Things that were planned but possibly cut during development include Lucas in place of Ness, the Sprout Tower as a stage from Pokemon Gold and Silver, trophies in general from Rare Ltd, and Fire Emblem characters as trophies. And those kind of make sense. Rare, tough to negotiate those rights, especially with James Bond. And then, if Fire Emblem characters, especially when it comes to the Western versions of the game, a lot of additions would have, I think, needed to have been added, and then a lot of context that these audiences have no reference for. Though a lot of trophies did make it in the game from Japanese-only games, so I don't know.
You could also see like evidence of the Rareware stuff in the game still, because I think at some point people have found like screenshots or something that the motion sensor bomb used to be listed as from Perfect Dark.
That's right. Yeah, good point. Things that were actually cut during development, though, include Summit as a stage for ice climbers, Sukapon as an item, don't worry, he'd come back eventually in some form, Kingdom of Akania as a stage from Fire Emblem, Ditto as a Pokeball, that's a famous one, and then the ideas for assist trophies and 8-player Smash, which would be added in Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and then Wii U and 3DS, respectively. Or just Wii U, I guess.
Would the GameCube just, melt if you tried to do that in Melee?
Maybe, especially with Ice Climbers. That's always the big hang-up, right? The game was revealed at E3 2001 with a playable demonstration, and there seemed to be some regret from Sakurai that he made a game that catered too much towards hardcore players, alienating casual players and ruining the fun that could come with a wider audience. Even still, Sakurai said in 2010 that Melee was, quote, the sharpest game in the series. It just felt really good to play. When the game came out, Super Smash Bros. Melee reviewed very well, with a Metacritic average of 92. It received widespread acclaim from critics, earning praise for its visuals, simple controls, gameplay, and orchestrated soundtrack. Partially orchestrated, at least. If anything, critics thought that characters were hyper-responsive and too touchy to control, and that the game's pace was too frantic. Some also thought that there was not enough difference from the Nintendo 64 Smash game. Development was very quick. And you did have quite a lot that was improved over the GameCube version. But, I guess when people want an all-new sequel instead of something that is iterative, that's a whole other discussion, I think. It is Nintendo GameCube's best-selling game of all time, with about 7.41 million copies sold. It is regularly recognized among, I would say, the big four Nintendo GameCube games by different outlets as being the best on the platform. Of course, these being Resident Evil 4, Metroid Prime, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, and Super Smash Bros. Melee. The game received a nomination for Console Fighting Game of the Year and Outstanding Achievement in Animation by the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, which we now know as the DICE Awards. What did these go to? Console Fighting Game of the Year, Dead or Alive 3. And Outstanding Achievement in Animation, Oddworld Munch's Odyssey. I feel like Super Smash Bros. Melee kind of got robbed in those categories. Other outlets gave the game a smattering of awards, such as Electronic Gaming Monthly choosing it as Best Multiplayer and Best GameCube Game in 2001. The game was ranked 58th in Official Nintendo Magazine's 100 Greatest Nintendo Games Ever feature from 2009. And I feel like the game has just been even more fondly remembered with time, as in 2019, Game Informer ranked it as the second best fighting game of all time. A controversial choice at the time, to be sure, but an appreciated one for fans of Super Smash Bros.
And the controversial part is apparently it's controversial to call it a fighting game.
Yeah.
Who knew?
There might be some reason for that, because not only has Super Smash Bros. Continued as a franchise with 2008's Brawl, 2014's for Wii U and 3DS, and 2018's Ultimate, but Super Smash Bros. Melee has endured to this day in the grassroots competitive esports scene. Across its more than 21-year history, from Major League Gaming to the Evolution Championship Series to tournaments every weekend in towns all around the world, people still play Super Smash Bros. Melee competitively to this day. In fact, the competitive Smash community was featured in a 2013 crowdfunded documentary called The Smash Brothers. And if you ever want to get a primer on what competitive Smash is like, I think that's a good place to start. A great documentary there.
Yeah, I remember watching that, roughly around when it came out, I think. It's a really, really good documentary, honestly. Like, surprisingly really good. That's the first time I'd heard a bunch of those pros' names and stuff. And it got me into watching it. And it's really neat. Yeah, I recommend it. It's a really neat documentary. So in terms of historical development research on Super Smash Bros. Melee, you got music in this game composed and arranged by Hirokazu Ando, Shogo Sakai, Tadashi Ikegami, and Takuto Kitsuta. And while all of them sort of handled arrangements in the game, Ando and Sakai are noted for composing original music for the game. Ando, I believe, was also the lead composer for Smash 64, which is likely how he ended up here.
Yeah, big guy for HAL Laboratory.
Yeah, Ikegami worked on sound effects for the game. Other Nintendo themes that were used were originally composed by Koji Kondo, Grant Kirkhope, David Wise, Akito Nakatsuka, Hirokazu Tanaka, Kazumi Totaka, Jun Ishikawa, Hajime Hirasawa, Junichi Masuda, Yumiko Kanki, Naoto Ishida, Keiichi Suzuki, Yuka Tsujioko, Hideki Kanazashi, and Yukio Kaneoka. And among other sources, most of the orchestral music was sequenced using two sound libraries called Peter Siedlacek's Advanced Orchestra and Quantum Leap Brass, while other songs were sequenced using the Roland Sound Canvas. A few select tracks are also recorded by the New Japan Philharmonic, referred to as Orchestra Melee, who would later perform the smashing live soundtrack suite, which is an awesome album. And GameCube's music streaming capabilities allowed for this, which was a first for the Smash series. That was all MIDI back in the N64 days, baby. The N64 didn't do sound very well.
Yeah, so right from the get-go, you even get to hear an orchestrated, fully recorded song, and it's great. And I feel like we'll get to that eventually, but our strategy for how we wanted to cover the music for Super Smash Bros. Melee is, let's do a critical 5 for the arranged Nintendo music tracks from the stages. And then we'll do a second critical 5 for the original music from Super Smash Bros. Melee. Both Joe and I picked our 5 for each, found that there were a lot of overlaps there, so good consensus there, and then the rest we'd put in a couple of tracks on the cutting room floor.
Yep, which I think is a very good way to do it, mostly because for the other Smash games, we just did like the top 10 tracks in general, but that's mostly because those are games with hundreds of songs.
Yeah, big anthology pieces.
Yeah, Melee has a much smaller soundtrack and much more focused around stuff. So we figured, this is the best way to go about it.
So let's start then with the arranged Nintendo music 5 critical tracks for Super Smash Bros. Melee. And a good place to start, I think, is Jungle Japes. Of course, it is a jazz-based remix of DK Island Swing from Donkey Kong Country, a famous piece, certainly, which was also used as the theme of the Jungle Japes stage in Donkey Kong 64. The original piece was composed by David Wise, and this version is arranged by Shogo Sakai. Naturally, it plays on the Jungle Japes stage, and it is also one of Donkey Kong's credits themes. I mean, a great piece here. Donkey Kong's music is pretty hit or miss in this game. It's a weird version of the DK rap. It's pretty.
You used the wrong word. It's a bad version of the DK rap.
Yes. It tries to stay loyal, and if I remember correctly, there's like a looping problem with it.
It was cut down in future games. They cut out a bunch of verses in Brawl, right. And then the Brawl version is what I believe was brought forward into the other games. So it was made worse somehow.
But this one is, I think, the best Donkey Kong music inclusion, especially also when it mellows out. It's not included in the clip, but I mean, wow, great instruments, and it just goes to show like the quality of the MIDI here is definitely a step up compared to the N64 version, which you get to see there's the N64 stage for Donkey Kong, and that gets lifted up a little bit. But wow, this one's great. Good pick.
This might actually be my favorite rendition of DK Island Swing like ever. There are a lot of them that come close, and this song has been remixed to hell and back. Like, it is one of the most iconic video game themes ever. Definitely the most iconic drum part of a video game there's ever been.
Yeah.
Because you can do that dun 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 dun, and like people will recognize what you're doing. It's insane. But this one, giving it that like really, really doubling down on the swing aspect of it, I think makes this one really special, and it's just really cool. I adore this version of this song.
A track that we have not covered yet on this show has quite the prominence, I think, in Super Smash Bros. Melee. So for number 2 on the 5 critical tracks for arranged Nintendo music in the game, this is, of course, Hyrule Temple. This is an atmospheric remix of the dungeon theme from Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. Yes, a game that we have not talked about on this show yet. It's originally composed by Akito Nakatsuka and arranged by Shogo Sakai. The track plays famously on the Temple stage, and also in the underground maze in the adventure mode. It is one of Link's credits themes. And you know what? If you played this game casually, especially like I did among my first console games that I owned, man, Hyrule Temple is a great casual stage. When you start to play the game competitively, not so much. It's too big, and there are a lot of weird areas on that stage. But when you're having fun with friends and you've got items and Pokeballs and a whole bunch of things going, nothing quite like playing on Hyrule Temple, and this song goes with it. I feel like, for me, this is the definitive stage song in the game as far as my nostalgic experience playing the game. It's not the best Nintendo arranged song. We'll get to it, but it's the one that stands out the most for me, and like this was the first one written down with a bullet on my list.
This is a very good arrangement of a piece I will never hear in its real context because I'm not playing this game ever. I refuse to touch this game because I like my desk to be in one piece when I'm done with a video game. But this song rules. Matt describes Temple as having a 3-act structure. I don't know what the hell that means to this day, and I'm too afraid to ask. And Matt, I know you're listening to this. If you DM me with a description or something, I will ignore it. I don't want to know. It's better as a mystery.
If I had to surmise, I think everything starts on the top level. You've got a lot of action that can go on that top level with the ceiling available to you. But once you start getting into that middle, and that's not the cavern of death, but it's where that glitch happens with the Babam.
I've always seen it described as Fight Club.
Yeah, so
middle down area.
If things get serious, like you start going in that middle area between the two land masses, and that tunnel's where real stuff goes down. And if you want to play with the big boys, you start going to the bottom of the stage where it does not take much to mess up, and you are being sent to your death. So I think that funneling structure, starting wide and narrowing to the denouement, is what I would guess he means by that.
I have seen that like chart labeling all the different parts of Hyrule Temple, where that one down there is Fight Club, and I think one of the areas like up top is labeled Weenie Hut Jr. or something.
Yes.
It's such a good picture. Temple is a really fun stage. It's the only fun big stage that they've ever made, because after this you have Newport City, which is awful. God. And then you have Palutena's Temple, which is somehow worse.
And then the great, what's the Kirby one?
Great Cave Offensive, baby. Yeah. The worst stage in Smash.
Absolutely. I don't know how they've messed it up since then, but nothing tops Temple as far as big and casual. Number 3 on the Arranged Nintendo Music Critical 5 for Super Smash Bros. Melee. You want to talk about orchestrated, it's this one. It's the GOAT. It's Fountain of Dreams. For months in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, there was hope for one stage to return, not only to improve its visuals and just look amazing, but for one track in particular to return to the My Music section, and it was Fountain of Dreams from Super Smash Bros. Melee. Big pop-off moment when that was revealed in a Super Smash Bros. Presentation by Masahiro Sakurai. And why not? Because Masahiro Sakurai is the creator of Kirby. And so when Fountain of Dreams arrives as a dramatic orchestrated remix of the Gourmet Race theme from Kirby Superstar, just a recurring melody to represent King Dedede in the Kirby series, it's originally composed by Jun Ishikawa, and this one is arranged by Tadashi Ikegami. Of course, it plays on the Fountain of Dreams stage, and it can also play on the Green stage during Adventure Mode. It is one of Kirby's credits themes. I mean, talk about when you actually have the recorded orchestra going. That orchestra melee this is the one that stands out. It's beautiful, and to match a gorgeous stage for the time. Not much landscape on that stage, not much area to work with, but man, this is a track that stands out. And for Smash Brothers fans to anticipate this in the ultimate Smash Brothers game, I think there's a really good reason for that.
Yeah, this is the best song in Melee. Just in general, this might also be the best rendition of Gourmet Race, which is saying something, because again, much like DK Island Swing, Gourmet Race has been remixed to hell and back within its own series. But this is like the quintessential one, to the point where I guess the popularity of this song on this stage, when they remade Kirby's Adventure, they changed the music that plays at that section into this because it was so popular. And that alone shows how much impact this song had. But just the impact of having this orchestrated arrangement of this Kirby song, of all of them, a Kirby song, not Fire Emblem, not Zelda, it's Kirby.
A little, self-promotion there from Mr. Sakurai.
It's so well done, and it's so good, and it makes this, like, goofy little fun song into this super dramatic piece, and it's really impressive and super memorable, and God, I'm glad that stage came back. I really like that stage, and this song's pretty much the reason why.
Thank goodness, yeah, and it had to be here, of course. The last couple were also sure things from us, and I think it's pretty telling. Number 4 here on this Critical 5 for arranged Nintendo music, this is Poke Floats. Just one of the dumbest, funniest, most adorable stages in Super Smash Bros. History. A crime that it did not come back in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Poke Floats, of course, just a bunch of balloon Pokemon as if they were in a parade, just coming in and either saving you, ruining your day, or just being a good platform to battle it out on. And the Poke Floats track is a synthesized medley of 3 battle themes from the first generation of Pokemon. This would be Battle Trainer, Battle Gym Leader, and Battle Wild Pokemon. All of those were originally composed by Junichi Masuda, and this is arranged by Hirokazu Ando. Of course, it plays on the Poke Floats stage. It also plays on the Battlefield stage when fighting Mewtwo in All-Star mode, on the Final Destination stage when fighting it in Event 40, All-Star Match 4, and while unlocking it, and on the Pokemon Stadium and Final Destination stages when fighting Mewtwo in Classic mode. It is one of Pikachu's credits themes and Mewtwo's only credits theme, so basically the Mewtwo theme. But my goodness, what a stage and a great compilation of tracks from Pokemon. I mean, that Battle Trainer track, this rendition, almost sounding like the anime rendition, which is just epic as hell. But yeah, it's a good one. It stands out, and mostly just because of this doofy stage. I miss it. I miss Poke Floats.
I've never played on Poke Floats.
What?
Ever.
Oh my gosh. Oh no. Oh no.
Well, because it hasn't been in any of the Smash games I've played extensively. It never came back.
Yeah.
So I've just legitimately never played on this stage. But I really like this song simply because, it's battle music from Pokemon. One of the, I think, most disappointing things about Super Smash Bros. 64 is that, the Pokemon main theme, sure, it's iconic, whatever. Man, if I'm going to fight with a Pokemon, this is the music I want to play. That's why this music was written.
Yeah, you're not wanting to fight on Saffron City, do ba 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 da, 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 da. Like, no.
Like, I get it. Iconic. Sure. All right. It can be in there, but this should be the default. And the fact that somebody agreed with me and put it on some stage, agreed with common sense, I should say, it makes me happy. And this is also just a really good rendition of these songs, so that helps too.
Come back someday, Pokefloats. We miss you. And rounding out the Critical 5 for arranged Nintendo music from Super Smash Bros. Melee, I mean, let's talk about it. It's Fire Emblem. This is an arrangement of 2 recurring Fire Emblem music tracks that debuted in Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light. This is the meeting theme, or it's variously known as Come Join Us, or I know it more as Together We Ride, as well as the main theme of Fire Emblem. Both of these songs, particularly the former, are more based on their arrangements from Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem than the original Famicom versions. Originally composed by Yuka Tsujiyoko, and this is arranged by Shogo Sakai. Most of the stages in Super Smash Bros. Melee had an alternate music track that you could play if you held down, I think it was one of the trigger buttons on the GameCube controller, if I remember correctly. You could force that alternate track to play. And this is the alternate track for the Temple stage. So, more nostalgia of when you're playing crazy dumb matches on Temple, and you get this track that really stands out, especially at the beginning with the energy of Together We Ride. And it's music that you've never heard before as a kid in the United States or Europe, because what is this Fire Emblem franchise? Well, we certainly know it now, as Fire Emblem Engage just recently came out. You can also hear this played in the underground maze, and it also plays when you're fighting Marth on Great Bay in classic mode, also when fighting him on Fountain of Dreams. And you also hear it with fighting Roy on Final Destination in All-Star mode. It also plays on Fountain of Dreams when unlocking Marth, and on Temple when unlocking Roy. Naturally, both Marth and Roy's credits themes as well. It's the only inclusion of Fire Emblem music. It's a shame that a stage was cut for them, but maybe that would just, lose context for Western audiences, but still a shame, especially because Kingdom of Akanea, I think, is Marth's home, like where he's the prince, if I remember correctly. But yeah, great track of blending these two songs together, the energy of Together We Ride, and then blending it into a nice version of Fire Emblem. Again, the MIDI of the time, much better than it used to be on N64. You hear the kind of limitations of the time, but it still sounded so good, especially during these big climactic battles with your friends on Hyrule Temple.
It's really weird to currently be playing a game with this song in it, because this is still the meeting song in Blazing Blade. I believe it's the meeting song in a lot of older Fire Emblem games. By meeting, that means there's an NPC on the other side, or as a neutral third party, and you need to have one of your characters talk to them, and then they'll join your side. And this is the music that plays when you talk to them. So I've been hearing it a lot, and it's Game Boy Advance rendition. I don't know how it makes me feel. For some reason, it's just weird, even though it's not the first time this has happened to me with a video game song. I don't know. This song rules. It's really, really good. I think when it gets to the Fire Emblem theme part, I think I like the Brawl version just a little bit more.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But this, the Together We Ride part specifically is excellent. I love it. All right, let's move into the 5 original tracks. These are ones that were written for Super Smash Bros. Melee, which means they do not appear in other games before this. A lot of them did come back in future Smash games, but you get what I mean. And the first of which is Opening. Song, of course, composed by Shogo Sakai. We mentioned earlier that one of the big things that this game did to sort of show off the GameCube's abilities was have this big, bombastic FMV opening, and this is the song that plays during that opening sequence. And of course, at the end of the track, the announcer shouts the game's title. In my experience, shouts it wrong, because I can never not hear Melee! And that's not how you pronounce the word. But I might just be crazy. That's what I hear every time. I don't know why.
Also, why didn't that come back? I guess when you start, saying for Wii U or for 3DS, but when Brawl did not have it was like, ooh, I kind of missed that.
Ultimate should have had it at the very least.
Oh, yes.
At the very least.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this song is like really good, especially when you just imagine this is the only game I think 64 has an opening video, but it's whatever, it's fine. This is the only one with like an actually impressive good opening, because the rest of them are just like Brawls is just Subspace Emissary cutscenes, and then Wii U's is just trailer footage cut together.
Ultimates is just weird gameplay clip captures.
Yeah, and so like this is the only time they ever did this, and I wish they would have kept doing it, because then we would have gotten like a really cool song to go along with it as well. That was more than just the main theme of the game, But this song is really good, and the opening is really good, and God, I wish they kept doing it.
Yeah, legitimately one of the best opening sequences in video game history, I think, right? I mean, the creativity behind all of this, for Sakurai to storyboard all of this, and how it just blends from one to the next and brings in all of these characters together. It's beautiful. And then for Sakurai to arrange this for orchestra and for it to be recorded. And then, that's how you're introduced to the game is here's a new generation with GameCube, and here's this orchestrated track. Not many of the other tracks are orchestrated, but this is a great place to start. And whenever you boot up the game, you at least hear that first little bit. And wow, so good.
Track number 2, this is the song I think about when I think about Melee. 100%. This is Menu 1. This song, of course, composed by Hirokazu Ando. This is the song that plays by default on the game's main menu, and this song is Melee. Like, this song is Melee. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, this is the iconic piece from this game, in my opinion. This is as close to the main theme of Super Smash Bros. Melee as it gets. And one of the better menu themes in a game ever. It's fantastic.
The MIDIs are doing so much work to sound so good here, right? Like, this could have been orchestrated too, but it's not, and that's fine. But yeah, an iconic melody. It's so much so that when this gets adapted in meme format, when you see on like TikTok or other video platforms when this like choose your character and this song is playing, but like different people changing in little outfit dress ups and or like, you know, my Grand Theft Auto outfits, whatever. When this is the choose your character theme for memes, I think you're doing something right. Also, when future Smash Brothers menu themes and character selects, you know, themes, and when it all gets compared to, is it better than Menu 1 from Melee? I think you're setting a high bar. You're right. This song is Melee. If there was one song to represent from this entire game, it's this song, undoubtedly.
Yeah, 100%. Track number 3 is also a Menu song. I don't think it's as good as Menu 1, but it is still pretty good. This is Menu 2. This one, composed by Shugo Sakai, it is a remix of the opening theme, and you unlock it after obtaining every character and stage, after which point there's a random chance of playing either this or Menu 1 on the main menu. I personally really like Menu 1 a lot more. Menu 2 is good, I guess, but I can't say it would be my choice to play on the menu. That being said, it is iconic. Both of these have come back in future games as menu themes that can play on the menu, which is cool. I really dig that future Smash games would just like, what, you want the menu themes from Melee? You want the one from Brawl? It's okay, but take your pick, man. Take your pick. It's great. I do like that you get a new menu theme after you've unlocked everything. I do kind of wish that could have continued as a trend. I know it couldn't have, because after my music was added, ball's out of the court at that point. But I think it is a neat idea at the very least, and I'm glad that it happens at least here.
Yeah, it's a trivia bit I didn't know about, actually. Like, I feel like it was me one day, Menu 2, I stumbled upon it while playing, and I didn't know if it was, you know, with that context of you unlocked all of the characters and stages. So for me, this song is a breath of fresh air. It's really nice. And yeah, upon further reflection, like, it is a remix of the opening, isn't it?
Yeah, I didn't realize that either until this was
Yeah, but it's still really a nice take on it. And it's nice to hear something different. I agree. It doesn't beat Menu 1 for being the classic that it is, but it's just nice. And that the swell of the music and the instruments coming in at the start of the phrase specifically, you know, for the piece, it's just it's nice, and it feels really cleansing in a way. Maybe that's just like, I don't know, the percussion, or like there's like a splash or a wave kind of crashing over you, it feels like. And I really appreciate that about the song before it gets into the melody of the opening.
Another one of my favorite songs in the game is, I feel like a song that has to be here because it's the first time that this stage was just like a selectable stage you could play on. That is critical track number 4, Final Destination. His song, composed by Hirokazu Ando, it is a climactic orchestral remix of the credits theme from Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64. And that is super cool and rad. And this song in general is just really good and has this really bombastic final feeling to it. And again, like I said, In Smash 64, Final Destination is present, but it's where you fight Master Hand at the end of Classic Mode, and that's the only place that you get to do it. Same with Battlefield. Battlefield only shows up when you're fighting the Fighting Polygon team. That's it. And in this game, both of those became like just regularly selectable stages, and so they needed their own awesome song to go along with it. I think Final Destination nails it.
Yeah, and ones that would be selected for the competitive scene, right? Because of the lack of any big hazards there. Of course, when the meme gets created of Fox only, no items, Final Destination, an important stage in the iconography that Melee represents and creates for itself. So I think it's really neat that it is, calling back to the original credits theme from Super Smash Bros. On Nintendo 64, especially when you think about future Smash games and their Final Destination is just a dramatic take on the game's main theme. Kind of loses a little bit of something there. I mean, this harkens back to the original, the history, granted, the short history at the time of Super Smash Bros. And just a great theme. All the purple that goes on the stage. Just a great flat plane for big showdowns to occur. Serious, competitive showdowns, not the wacky temple ones.
Granted, both have value.
Of course.
In certain ways. But I think one of the, out of left field, why is this so good, you didn't have to go this hard tracks in the game is critical track number 5. That's Targets. This song was composed by the mysterious entity known as Nintendo. The soundtrack apparently does not credit who actually wrote this one, which is bizarre that it does everybody else, but not this one. But alright. This plays when the player is participating in Break the Targets, which rest in peace, and the Home Run Contest, which kinda rest in peace, but not really. And it's awesome. This song has such a good energy to it, and again, really? You went this hard for Break the Targets? Really?
Amazing, so good, jazzy piano and everything. I really miss this piece, honestly, and this mode. We talk about it in past Super Smash Bros. Podcasts, but the thought that went behind the Break the Targets mode, specifically customized for each individual character to make the most of their movesets and kind of have you use all of their tools in their kit. You couldn't really do that once it expanded from 26 characters, or 25, I guess. Zelda and Sheik, you had to transform, and it was just one, right? I think, anyway.
I think so.
But 35 characters, and then it just ballooned even further from there. You couldn't devote that many resources, so... And then we don't even get bored of the platforms. What gives? But yeah, what an amazing piece for just a jazzy little riffy track on this little mini game. Awesome.
Yeah, again, you didn't need to go this hard, but I'm glad you did. The part where it just breaks into a piano solo is absolutely incredible. It's I don't know what else to say other than it's shocking that this is where it is. In terms of tracks on the cutting room floor, this is just a combined, both original or arranged, though, to be honest, I think both of ours are... No, one of yours is original, so yeah. There we go. But both of mine are arranged, the first one being Pokemon Battle Gold/Silver. Just as Pokefloats is a medley of 3 battle themes from the first generation, this is a medley of 3 battle themes from the second generation, being Battle Johto Wild Pokemon, Battle Johto Gym Leader, and Battle Champion. It was originally composed by Junichi Masuda, and this version was arranged by Hirokazu Ando. And this track can play on the Pokemon Stadium stage and should be the default, but is not for some reason. And it also plays when fighting Pichu on 4-side in All-Star mode, as well as in Event 49, All-Star Match Deluxe, and when fighting Jigglypuff on Pokefloats in Event 40, All-Star Match 4. It is one of Jigglypuff's credits themes, which is odd, and Pichu's only credits theme. And it is rad. I have made it no secret that I absolutely adore Gen 2. It's the closest gen to my heart, I think, because it's the one I started with, obviously. A lot of rose-colored glasses there. But this song is just awesome. It was tailor-made for me, and I love it.
It's interesting how this song and this arrangement starts out simply, but then just adding more instruments to it just really expands the scope of this one. Obviously love Gen 2 music. Though, if I had to pick between the two, I think the Pokefloats arrangement is better, and that's why it goes in the Critical 5. But yeah, I think a good one to put here, especially to hear it on Pokemon Stadium. Yeah, why isn't it the default? It's battle music, darn it.
Well, I mean, gotta have the main theme, I guess. And the other one, I might hate this game, but I like its stage a lot. The music for that stage is the second track on my cutting room floor, being Mother, Earthbound. Now, while this may be the default music on 1-ET, it's actually a medley of tracks from Earthbound Beginnings, aka Mother 1. The main track is Bein' Friends, and it's the theme that plays when Ninten only has one partner accompanying him, and the second track is the 8 Melodies, which is the main theme of Earthbound Beginnings as a whole. I remember it being very, very weird learning this when I watched a Let's Play of Earthbound 1 at some point and heard this song and was like, wait, because I knew it wasn't from Earthbound at that point. It is bizarre that it is that, of all things. The final portion of the work is the game's title screen theme, Mother Earth, as well as a brief sample of the standard enemy encounter theme. This music was, of course, all originally composed by Keiichi Suzuki and Hirokazu Tanaka, and it was arranged in this version by Shogo Sakai. This track plays, like I said, on 1-ET, and it is one of NES's credits themes. It's just a good song. Earthbound, I hate it. I hate the Mother series, except for Mother 3, which is fantastic. But it's got some damn good music, and this is a good example of that. Also, I just like 1-ET. The cars are fun.
The cars are fun. And shouts out to, young us looking at this stage, and it's on-ET. And then you learn about all of the different towns in Earthbound, and it's 1-ET and Tucson and Threed.
People yell at me all the time that it's still pronounced on-ET, and I will never pronounce it on-ET. I refuse.
Well, yeah, once you learn new information, you should cater and change your knowledge to fit this new knowledge. Don't be just stuck in your ways. But yeah, I mean, this is a great theme to play on that stage of 1-ET, and yeah. Those bright colors, all of the reds and greens and whites, and all those cars that you take your life in your hands when you go down there. But a great theme for that. And you got Pollyanna in there as the alternate, I think, right?
Which I think is also from Earthbound Beginnings.
Yeah, weird. So nice music to be introduced to for this franchise. Ness was in the original Smash 64, but good to have him continue in this game. My couple tracks on the cutting room floor, like Joe said, I have one that is an original track from Super Smash Bros. Melee, and that is Metal Battle. So while there are several tracks that are just dressed up remixes of other songs, I'm looking at you, Battlefield theme, while you're great, you're just another take on Menu 1. And that's fine, it's great. But how about a track that is just wholly unique and original, and this is one that plays when the player battles a metal character in classic mode, or Metal Mario and Metal Luigi in adventure mode on the Battlefield stage. Just a frenetic the pace that goes with this one, and it only pops up in those certain instances. So it's a song that really kind of catches your ear. Also shouts out the How to Play theme is of course a classic, but this is one that I wanted to include here.
It goes hard. I always kind of just assume that it's a redo of the Metal Mario music from 64, but it is very much not. Both of those are very good, but I think this definitely does. I mean, I get the joke of, oh, it's Metal Mario? Let's make a metal song. I mean, that fits. It works. You know? Why not? It's a really good song. They pull it off real well.
The other arranged piece that I have here on the cutting room floor, for me, one that stands out is, of course, Big Blue. We mentioned Big Blue in the context of Mario Kart 8 and the DLC that came with it, but this version is a take on the Big Blue theme from F-Zero and F-Zero X. This rock version is more inspired by the take from F-Zero X. It is originally composed by Naoto Ishida, and this is arranged by Hirokazu Ando. Of course, it plays on the Big Blue stage, and it is also one of the tracks that can play on the F-Zero Grand Prix level in adventure mode. It is, of course, also one of Captain Falcon's credits themes. I like this one more than Mute City. This one always stood out. Big Blue, a difficult and frustrating stage to play on. It's no poke floats, I can tell you that, despite all the moving cars and all that's going on there. But this music rules. It always caught my ear, and as a newly discovered Nintendo fan outside of just a Pokemon kid, made me want to learn more about this kind of music and what is F-Zero, and just Super Smash Bros. Melee, I think, was just a great way to open my eyes to the different Nintendo properties as someone who had a lot of learning to do about video games and all the years since.
This song rules, but also at this point in my life is kind of serving as a dark omen. For F-Zero GX is the next game on the list for Smash Pieces, and I'm so scared of playing that game.
Go check out our episode on F-Zero GX for our original Soundchat if you want to listen to the music from that game.
And also if you want to hear why it scares me so much. This song is awesome. The Mario Kart version is untouchable, though.
100%. Yeah.
Like, this used to be the best version of it. Mario Kart kicked its ass out of the room. I love playing on Big Blue simply because I always think about everybody's reaction when they found out that if you put Bunny Hood on Sonic, he can keep up with the cars.
Yeah.
That was always fun. I like this stage because I don't know, something about hey, if you touch the ground, you're dead.
Oh, yeah.
Goodbye. I think it's funny. I think it's a really fun casual stage. And this song is just, some icing on the cake.
What will I never forget about Super Smash Bros. Melee? I think, from discovering the game with my friends to wanting it so much to make the case for getting a GameCube for the house, growing up as my first video game console along with my brother, and specifically to play this game and everything that came from it, and love of Super Smash Brothers, and the people that it connected me with, and the opportunities that starting a podcast for the love of Super Smash Brothers, all that provided me. I say more often than not that Super Smash Brothers Brawl, everything for all of that, but truly the more I think about it when it comes down to it, it's all from Melee, and what started my deep love of playing games on a video game console and everything, all of that. It's Melee, and that's what I'll never forget.
I'll never forget playing it in a McDonald's where the controller was probably broken
and sticky,
and I didn't know who Mr. Game & Watch was for several years. That's pretty much all I got.
I'm sorry that your Melee experience isn't as deep and formative, but yeah, still a powerful game. And of course, seeing its continued rise throughout the grassroots esports scene, the way that people still lug CRT TVs around for Super Smash Bros. Melee is nothing short of admirable. And I think that's a good way to highlight another Smash Bros. Game for another anniversary of original Soundchat. So that'll do it for us for this week. You can find me on Twitter at PeteSpeakeasy. Joe is over at String Pixel. The video version of the show is on the Rhymes with Asia YouTube channel, but it's that MP3 podcast version that you want to listen to, and that's on Anonymous Dinosaur at anondino.squarespace.com. It's where Joe's other podcast, Smasherpieces, is hosted. And you can find Smasherpieces and original Soundchat wherever you get your podcasts, on catchers all around the globe with Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, even on Spotify, where of course we have a feed of podcast episodes to listen to, but we also have a video game music playlist. If we talk about a video game music track on this show and it's on Spotify, it gets added to this big monster playlist. Now, of course, because it's Nintendo music, Super Smash Bros. Melee not going to be on there, but for every anniversary, we like to highlight what is the size of this big playlist. And Joe, what do you have for us?
Oh boy. Well, we are currently at 98 hours and 31 minutes of music.
Amazing.
That's almost 100 hours of music, everybody.
More than 4 days worth if you just kept on listening to it straight. Love it. And when you're done listening, you can find the show on social media at Soundchat OST, where you can leave some feedback for us. How are we doing with these episodes? What did we miss in our Critical 5? And give us some suggestions to cover certain games in the future. All right, Joe, who are we talking about next week?
I don't know how next week's going to go for me, but I'm going to talk about Paul Taylor.
I will be talking about Peter Chapman. All right, to play us out, I feel like one of the artists that we've highlighted quite a few times on this show is Johnny Atma, known as Game Metal on YouTube. And he has quite the take on Menu 1 from Super Smash Bros. Melee. After all, it is the track if we're going to highlight one from this game. And certainly a good one to pick. So please enjoy that. Thank you so much for listening this week, this year on Original Soundchat. We'll see you next time. Take care.